bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945 not only inflicted immediate devastation and loss of life, but also had lasting environmental impacts on the two cities and surrounding areas. The nuclear explosions resulted in widespread radioactive contamination of the soil, water, and air, which persisted long after the bombings. The long-term effects of radiation exposure on the environment included genetic mutations in flora and fauna, increased rates of cancer in the survivors, and the disruption of ecosystems. The rivers and water bodies in the vicinity were also contaminated, affecting aquatic life and posing serious health risks to the population dependent on these water sources. The impact of these events on the environment serves as a poignant reminder of the far-reaching consequences of nuclear warfare. The long-term health effects. The atomic bombings released massive amounts of radiation, leading to long-term health effects on the survivors and affecting subsequent generations. This radiation exposure has been linked to increased rates of cancer, particularly leukemia, among survivors. The explosions, thermal radiation, and fires also caused extensive burns and injuries, adding to the long-term health burden on the population of both cities. In addition to the immediate physical injuries, many survivors suffered from long-term psychological trauma due to the traumatic events they experienced. The environmental impact of the bombs included present-day concerns about the genetic effects of radiation exposure on the survivors and their descendants, making it a health issue that persists even now, decades after the bombings. The survivors' health struggles serve as a sobering reminder of the lasting human cost of nuclear warfare and the ongoing need for support and understanding for those affected. Environmental devastation. The bombings resulted in the destruction of buildings, infrastructure, and vegetation over a wide area, leading to significant environmental devastation. Immediate fires caused by the explosions ravaged the landscape, and the intense heat generated led to widespread destruction of plant and animal life. Additionally, the residual radiation from the bombs had long-lasting effects on soil and water quality, further impacting the environment. The scale of destruction meant that the natural environment in and around both cities had to contend with extensive recovery efforts, and the process of regeneration has unfolded over generations. The heat generated by the explosions ignited fires that consumed everything in their path, leaving vast swaths of scorched earth and destroying habitats for numerous species. The lingering radiation not only contaminated the land and water, but also affected the genetic makeup of plants and animals, leading to mutations and impacting the entire ecosystem. Efforts to restore the environment involved replanting vegetation, reintroducing wildlife, and ongoing monitoring to track the recovery and genetic stability of the flora and fauna in the affected areas. Despite these efforts, signs of the bombings' environmental toll still linger in some areas, serving as a poignant reminder of the long-lasting scars inflicted on the natural world by nuclear warfare. Effects on wildlife. The ecological impact of the atomic bombings extended to the wildlife in the affected areas, with severe disruption to local ecosystems. The immediate aftermath of the bombings saw a decimation of animal populations, both from the direct impact of the explosions and the loss of habitat due to widespread destruction. Wildlife in Hiroshima and Nagasaki faced unprecedented challenges due to the persistence of radiation in the environment, which continued to pose a threat over time. The high levels of radiation not only led to acute health effects, but also had long-term consequences for the genetic makeup of plants and animals, resulting in mutations and affecting the entire ecosystem. The lingering radiation contaminated the land and water, posing a serious threat to biodiversity and the overall ecological balance of the region. As a result, efforts to restore the environment involved not only replanting vegetation and reintroducing wildlife, but also ongoing monitoring to track the recovery and genetic stability of the flora and fauna in the affected areas. These challenges have made the long-term effects on wildlife in Hiroshima and Nagasaki a critical component of the broader environmental legacy of the bombings. Conclusion. The environmental scars of the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings endure as a reminder of the human and environmental costs of nuclear warfare. Decades after the events, the lasting impact on health, the environment, and wildlife serves as a somber testament to the profound and enduring consequences of nuclear weapons. Efforts to understand and address these consequences continue, emphasizing the importance of learning from history to prevent such devastation in the future. The contamination and the genetic mutations in flora and fauna, the increased rates of cancer in the survivors, and the disruption of ecosystems continue to be significant concerns. Despite ongoing recovery efforts, signs of the bombing's environmental toll still linger in some areas, serving as a poignant reminder of the long-lasting scars inflicted on the natural world by nuclear warfare. The urgency to address the ongoing challenges posed by the environmental devastation and the long-term effects on health and wildlife underscores the imperative to prevent the recurrence of such catastrophic events.